Damn you, Van Vlack! Damn you!
This is Jerry.
This is Lane.
This is Dave. And you are listening to the Creative Impulse Podcast.
Today we have the usual cohorts. We got Lane, we got Jerry, but today we have Van Vlack.
I'm Andrew. This is my voice, and this is what I sound like.
I'm Jer. Hi.
You guys are musicians, right?
Yes.
Yeah, musicians.
Yeah. What kind of genre do you guys work in?
Just electronic. We try to do everything, though.
We like to not worry about the genre so much.
Yeah,
as write
definitely.
music.
Yeah.
We tend to, I think, go towards more like house music and electronic music, like you said, but, you know, we enjoy it all.
Before we get too deep, I want to start asking you guys about your craft and your inspirations, but there's a running gag about you guys. You guys know, I just called this episode Always Bet on Van Vlack. Because I think Van Vlack would be the coolest name for you guys. It sounds like Van Halen.
Yeah.
But you guys want to call yourselves Andrew and Jeremiah. What, it's all a name. What's
It's
up
a
with
great name. It would be a great name to say like an announcer was to. Van Vlack is back. In a word.
Vlack Attack.
Vlack Attack.
People have said that to us a lot, and I think it's something that we're going to use it later on, you know, in our life. But our last name is just as much a part of us as our first names are. Really, for us, instead of worrying about, like, you know, marketing and trying to brand ourselves as one thing or another, we're just two brothers writing music, and it's really simple, a lot simpler when you think about it. Our last name isn't going anywhere. It doesn't ever not exist anymore.
I don't know, man, but Van Vlack just so damn cool. I picture this big ass V and red, and it's like.
Isn't your SoundCloud SoundCloud.com/
Van Vlack.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. And I did it like that intentionally because I knew back then. I was like, well, I gotta claim Van Vlack. Yeah, I had to claim Van Vlack right
cool,
off the bat.
man.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah.
I want to make a comic book character called Van Vlack. I'm serious. If you guys don't use it, I'm going to do that. He'll be the bad guy. Van Vlack. Silas Van Vlack.
It's funny because we get all of our mail and it says Van Black.
People misspell it all
the
the
time.
I've had people
all
call
the
it Van
time.
Vlack or like, you know, people love to abuse it, which is kind of another reason why, you know, if we're just Andrew and Jeremiah, we just kind of like let the music speak for itself.
Sounds like Simon and Garfunkel, though.
Instead of, it does, but there's a lot of other duo people.
Yeah, it's very
It has
folkiness to it. Right.
Folkiness to it, yeah.
Biblical shit.
Exactly.
biblical. Oh, I mean, obviously, you guys are brothers, you're siblings,
Right.
How did you guys? But I still want to know how did this all?
Yeah.
How did this all? How did
Funny
this
story,
How did this whole
really.
music thing come together, though? How did it? And how does it work? You know, you guys being siblings.
I moved in with Andy and like I was making music on like a program on like an Xbox or something like that, and I was just having fun and just messing around. I was like spending like months on these like weird stupid songs on like a program with like preset sounds and drums and things like that, and I would just make like 20-minute songs on them and just for shits and giggles. And eventually
Jared played them for me one
Yeah.
day. He like brought his Xbox
Yeah.
over and played them for me. I was like, "You made these?" I was
Yes.
like, "You're actually pretty good at writing music."
Yeah.
I was like, "We should probably do this together.
Or something
I
of
like
the sort.
music and you like music.
Yeah.
We should probably do this together."
and then we got
and we just started from there.
How
And
long ago was this?
About 5 years ago now.
Damn. So you guys been doing this for 5 years?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Still learning.
So
Yeah, we're still learning. You never stop learning.
So it's just kind of a fun thing, and you guys said, "Well, why don't we make this? You know, why don't you decide to make it into a business?"
Well, when I realized how good we could get
the
at it.
moment
Damn.
we realized that we actually had a good amount of talent and that we could actually achieve the results that we were looking for, that we were like, okay, well, maybe we could make a career out of this.
Right.
But I'm a computer programmer, and I've been doing programming since probably almost like 20 years, since I was a kid. And it's one of those things where computers are just like a part of me now, and making music on the computer just makes sense. It's one of those things where being a programmer has definitely helped me put us in the right position, like, you know, with all the things that we need, and learning the right pieces of software. And I've been learning how to make my own instruments and make my own, pieces of software for other people to use. And it's
you'd be really good at that.
Yeah, it's
making
just
VSTs and things like that.
So what exactly is a VST instrument? A VST instrument is a plugin that is designed to extend the capabilities of your host digital audio workstation.
It's something that it just made sense. It's like a path that we just kind of fell into. But together, I think what makes Jer and me different is that we're a combination of the two. It's not just
Andy's more engineering and I'm like more composing.
Yeah, like I mean, Jer is ridiculous out the stuff that he writes, and he can write stuff in his head without even thinking about it. And whereas me, it takes me 10 times as long to write something as it would for Jer. But we separate our duties enough where we're both getting stuff done, and it's not just one person doing this or another person doing that. It's the sum that equals the end result of it, which is pretty cool.
Blend of skills.
Question
exactly.
Creates for better production in the end of the day.
Question now. No, two of us who are present here are non-musicians, but we can relate to this idea of combining technology, computers with the craft of our more our analog craft of maybe drawing.
Right.
How does technology and computers factor into what you guys do? Because you guys seem to have
everything.
Musical. Really,
it's pretty much everything when it comes to the software.
Is it a third person in the process, or would you say is it like a bionic augmentation of what you do already, or?
No, I like to think of using the machine because as a programmer, I like to think of using the machine as a tool to help me solve and get something done. Whether it be helping to make me write the song easier. It's a tool to get your ideas out, and it's not something that you interact with it instead of working against the machine and working against the grain. Make the machine
do
work.
The job for you.
Let it do the job for you. Because there's a way to let the computer make decisions that our brains are just not even wired for. And,
because there's a billion ways to do things, but there's only a couple right ways to do things.
Right.
It seems like technology or computers are they're so 1 and 0, they're so binary, they're so logical. But how does that jive with music or creativity, which is something that's so intuitive? Because we encounter that in the visual mediums we work with. How does that?
I think that's where again the difference between if you're trying to do something digitally and I always say when I want to get inspired, I don't if you can go sit in front of the computer and go write something, but sometimes I'll just go pick up the guitar or I'll watch Jer and he'll sit there and play piano in front of us because then you get the feel of the music along with being able to express it out, and but sometimes you want to make sounds or you just want to sit there and you want to work on vocals. You want to work on something that's completely different.
Definitely have like a routine for that. Like if I play piano for a couple hours, and if I'm done that, then I make sounds, and if I can't make sounds, then I just start making drums, and if I can't make drums, then I do something else, and it's just like a big circle basically, and you just keep doing that.
There's always something else.
You always find something to do basically.
So the computer isn't just a finishing tool. Your creative process could start with any of the tools.
Right,
no more different than if you're using a piece of paper, to draw on, or you're using a wall, or
a medium. It's a medium.
Whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's all it is a medium. That's why people can record on multi-track recorders, or you can do it on the computer, or people can record on their phones. And
people still do that.
There are so many different ways to do things. The way we do it is so that we have more control over stuff, and that's what the computer helps you do, is have you more control over the different options.
But with the internet now, there's like a big now you can get it out to the masses. I mean, this would have been much tougher to do, like back in the '80s, where you would have to do stuff
when our parents were kids and stuff. Right,
yeah, sure.
Absolutely. But the internet is just that's the method of distribution. You know what I mean? If the computer is the medium for creating it, the internet is now the method of distribution for pretty much everything.
Have you developed a kind of a strategy that takes this into consideration?
Yes and no. We have a social media presence, and we try to keep our stuff updated. Some stuff where we pay more attention to than others. It's one of those things where, in the end of the day, with the music business is different than like a lot of other things. One of the things we've been realizing more and more is it's just about getting good music out there consistently.
Right.
And so we're just about
consistency is probably the most important part.
And being consistent and doing it a lot. So it's just like with drawing or whatever else, you want to do it hundreds and hundreds of times, as many times as you can.
And you talk about the 10,000 hour rule. That it's not just a matter of, well, this person's a genius, this person has an amazing ability. It is actual practice and hard work.
A group of really brilliant psychologists in the field of expertise research tried to figure out how long do you have to work at something before you become really good? And the answer seems to be, it's an extraordinarily consistent answer in an incredible number of fields, and that is, you need to have practiced, to have apprenticed for 10,000 hours before you get good.
Every song can be different, and most of the time, a lot of times we write house music or electro because that's what we like to write, and it's our bread and butter, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to write something else. And because of that, we don't go always, out to do the same thing. Being consistent is good, and it helps develop rapport. And when people look and see that, oh, well, you have a whole bunch of really cool songs instead of just one, and they're, and they all sound different, and they give you a different feeling to all of them. It can have more of a lasting effect on people.
Would you guys consider yourselves loyal to any one genre? Would you guys? You said your house,
to pleasant, audible, and just good music.
The other thing too is if someone wanted us to write another song for somebody, which we've done before, we would do it. Jared could write a rock song, or I could write a rock song if we wanted to. I think
it wouldn't be very good.
It wouldn't be the greatest. It's not like we're Rick Rubin or something like that. I think it's important for us that we just try to do different things.
Are you inspired by people outside of your genre and outside of outside of your medium? I mean, do you look at?
I listen to constantly listen to classical and jazz, and listening to this one guy, Errol Gardner. He's famous jazz composer from the 50s and 60s, and just beautiful stuff.
How does that come into how does that play into the way that the music that you produce?
It's just I try to think of it more. It's like composing and chord progressions and it's just really just the science behind emotions of the chords and trying to decipher motifs of different types of songs, of whether it's evil or badass or happy or melancholy or all those things. You can really encompass it through the chords, basically, and how you arrive at certain chords.
So you're trying to evoke an emotional state?
Exactly.
Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah.
Waiting for the rain. I'm not holding back for anyone. Waiting for the rain.
Are you inspired by any other medium, say something like a visual medium or something that's
lately,
not
video games?
I think video games is one. That's one.
Cool. Yeah.
Lately too, comedy too. I love to watch stand-up comedy and listen to comedy.
Music that makes you laugh and is great.
Hear the philosophies of other people and it you start really thinking about other things, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I would do that differently, and hearing other people's opinions on what they think about music, or it's something that. I'm a firm believer that we're all connected. So, every little experience alters our perspective a little bit, and when every time your perspective changes, then, maybe you're going to take a different approach the next time you try to write something or take a creative, outlet.
Yeah.
Cool.
What about two things we've talked about offline? We've talked about story, and we've talked about also stepping back. You advised me once of the work I work on to take a step back and look at things from a vantage point. So could you elaborate on this idea of how does story relate to the music you produce, and also talk about this idea of stepping back and looking at the big picture of things?
Yeah, I would think that would have to do more with the motif of songs.
A motif is a small musical unit used by composers to create a composition. Though it is usually only a few notes long, it is used over and over in various forms to create the piece.
I take music really seriously, probably too seriously.
Right.
But you should be able to just have fun and be able to laugh at it too, and just enjoy it. And
I like to think of it too as a ride, almost like the way life is. Where if you're gonna start writing a song, a journey where the song starts and it's got X amount of energy, and then it goes up into a peak, and it goes down into its valleys, and it goes through, and you start at one place and then you end at another point. You know what I mean? And that's what really storytelling is. You start at one place and then you end at another point, and then you're either different or you're not.
You tell a beautiful story.
Right.
You could tell a hilarious story.
And I think it doesn't have to. It can be done with it can be done with sound, it can be done with vocals, it can be done a lot of different ways.
Visually
but it's starting in one place and ending in another.
And the journey is holding people's interest.
Interesting and pleasant soundscapes from beginning to end. Basically.
Sometimes I feel like there's a non-verbal, abstract, it's also non-linear, but yet it's a narrative, kind of a line or a thread that runs through our universe, perhaps, and maybe that. Sometimes I feel like that's what I'm tapping into as a visual artist. Sometimes I feel like I hear that in audio I listen to.
And I think what we're doing is you're creating that journey in a in a controlled environment almost for someone to kind of tap into. You're right. You know,
I kind of like to think of it as like it's already there before you. You know, the music is already there. Like the symmetry is already there, and it's just you bringing it out to what you want to hear and what you want to see, particularly for visuals. Like
it's like you're creating your own like self-contained kind of world.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I've heard other people describe the same thing with other forms of art. A guy that I know that he does a lot of sculpture stuff, and he works with rocks and a lot of different stuff. But the way he describes it is he's bringing the shape out of the rock, and he's revealing the
it's already
invisible
there.
space. It's already there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He's just bringing it out.
Right, exactly.
That's a Michelangelo
That
thing.
is.
Yeah.
Later, I ended up reading a statement that apparently Michelangelo made, or something, an idea he conveyed. He said that he didn't feel that he so much as created that sculpture as much as what he did was just chip away at that marble to reveal what he felt always existed inside of it.
Well, yeah, music's the same way.
The symmetry is already there.
Yeah, it's just, how do we envision it, and how does it come out of our, heads and onto the computer? Like you said with the comic books, and you've been drawing something and you've been working on something for hundreds of hours and tons of time.
Yeah, because you're never content.
You need someone sometimes too to give you a different nudge in one direction or another, because otherwise you can get lost just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Have you guys ever had a conflict about a piece of music?
We're
about
brothers.
direction?
Brothers.
So, can you walk us through an example of where you might butt heads?
I make some stupid shit sound, and then Jared's like, "That's stupid shit sound," or Jared will start changing something he doesn't need to change.
I have insanely high standards. That's my thing. I listen to a lot of music, and I take a lot of influence from a lot of artists that I respect, and it's just I have insanely high standards, and I even get down to myself when I don't go by those standards. Also, this thing kind of takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
it's a lot of time, and it's hard to be patient.
Right.
It's really hard to be patient, especially when you've been like mixing down something for like a year.
Right.
And it's
Now,
like,
when you say high standards, are you talking about originality, the structure,
everything?
Yeah,
pretty much.
The output quality of it.
Yeah, the mixing, mastering, quality, sound design.
How much time do you guys put into a given piece, or in general, how much time are
Way
you spending on
too
your
much
work?
time.
Yeah, too much time. But I would say they're usually over at least 100, 200 hours.
Yeah.
Anywhere between 100 and 200 hours for every
Which
song.
most producers would freak out right now.
Because I think a lot of people spend like 50 hours
50
or 20
tops.
hours
Wow.
on some
And you
songs.
tell them hundreds, they'd be like, "What? You're lying? No way." Bullshit.
And I think sometimes it would be nicer to work faster, but I don't. And in the end of the
I
day,
refuse
like,
to put out shit.
That's basically it. Jared said it on the money. We refuse to put out crap music because that's not who we are.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do that. And there's a lot of people out there that do that because they get impatient, and it's easy to convince yourself that this is kind of good, but that doesn't mean that it's fucking excellent. You know what I mean? There's a difference between okay and kind of okay, and excellent.
You just gotta be proud of your work in the end
and you
of the
have
day.
to be able to be super critical of yourself in order to do that.
Exactly.
I mean, if you don't spend the time to take to get like the best thing out, I mean, you'll listen to this like maybe a year or so down the road. It's like, oh God, I should have.
Right.
This
Oh God.
could have
we do
went
that all the
better.
time. We always love to go back and listen to our music.
Because
I did that the other day. I listened to my old stuff, like the first 5 songs I made, and I was just laughing my ass off. It's so bad. It was like, holy crap, it's hilarious.
Well, achieving this level of quality you're talking about requires time.
Oh my God.
Can you guys talk about your setup?
It's
your
our
working
room. It's our
relationship?
room.
Okay.
We share a
bedroom
room.
producers.
But financially, how do you support yourselves right now?
Well, I work with you guys, so.
But the people listening don't know this.
Yeah. So we all work together. I'm a computer programmer working with Dave and Lane.
Yeah.
And Jared makes music.
Yeah.
And then I'm
I'm
at work
home
during the
all
day,
day.
and then I come home and I write music.
Yeah.
Well, he's at home writing music.
Exactly. I'm just at home all day.
And then we come home and we talk about what he did, and then I'll start working on something, and he'll come talk to me.
And we became producers before we became any performers or DJs. I guess, I
yeah, I mean, we never.
So, like the DJ thing's coming afterwards. So we're not even very good at it actually at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
in time.
I tell people all the time we suck at DJing. I mean, we can DJ, but I
But,
don't really
like,
think
who
of it as a
can?
very difficult
Everyone in
thing,
this room
right?
can
Yeah, it's
DJ.
not. Yeah, if you, especially with some of the software that's out there today, it's really
ungodly easy. You're just
it's
a
really
human
easy
iPod.
to do. especially if you've been playing instruments and being able to count in time signatures like that we have been since we were a kid. I mean, that's all it is counting. So it's like
just math. It's easy.
But at the same time, we're not the best at it. We're not even close to being the best at it. We're amateurs at DJing compared to a lot of the other guys out there. There's so many people out there that are so amazing at DJing because they've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years.
But then again, this goes to standards again.
Right. And that's why we started making music
super high
before we started
standards.
worrying about performing music and doing, and we spent all our time writing music. But our process is different too because we can be honest with each other because we're brothers. So I don't need to lie to Jer.
Do you think?
Need to lie to me.
Do you think? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you think having ultra high standards can ever be counterproductive or stand in the way of progress?
It probably can, but
perfect being the enemy of the good.
No, because it makes us we take way too long to do stuff a lot of time. But we've been trying to be more consistent about it, but not way too long. But it takes longer for us to do stuff because our standards are higher. And a lot of times, could we do stuff faster? Maybe, but. The end result is, and we're not the only people that have this problem. I mean, like if your standards are super high, I mean, that's why Tool and Daft Punk only have an album come out every 10 years. They don't have one come out.
A lot of good artists only have 7 or 8 songs, even though they've been producing for 8 or 9 years.
Right.
It's pretty
and that happens
ridiculous,
a lot,
actually.
where people that some of the best people, you're not putting out music every month or every other month. It takes a lot longer, to your standards to be satisfied.
Is there anybody out there who actually who is that gifted they actually can just crank out music and everything?
Savant, Alexander Winter. He creates a song. He has I
mean, when you watch,
he wrote. All right, put it in this per second. He has 6 albums or 5 albums. I'm not sure exactly, but he wrote it all in 13 months. 5 albums in 13 months just on the computer, and they're full-length albums. They're 7 songs, 21 song albums.
It's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable stuff.
And the number that
he's my hero.
The number that Savant has said, and we like to think about it like this.
He's written 13,000 songs.
Yeah, I mean, but me and Jared probably spent 13,000. We probably spent 13,000 hours the last couple of years, but not 13,000 songs. That's a lot of fucking songs.
That's a lot of songs.
Damn.
So
but that's where he gets his name from. His name is Savant, obviously the name. But
I thought you were saying he was a savant.
He is a savant. That's his name though. He has Asperger's syndrome, and he just
he has super focus on music, and he just has to finish stuff. And most people cannot keep up with that.
Sometimes I kind of wonder if as creatives we're all actually on that spectrum of Asperger's. Actually, maybe
Sometimes
that's what makes us creatives. Is there a community of other musicians that you guys are a part of, or do you correspond with locally and maybe internationally?
Yeah, I mean, we have friends locally in Philly that are producers. Some of our good friends that are internationally known and stuff like that. Tars and Migueli, who are pretty good. And they're signed to a bunch of different record labels. They've been our friends for a while, and our other friend Tom Colantonio, he's been a big producer for a while, and they're all signed to big record labels, and they're putting out music all the time. But they're people that we can bounce feedback off of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and send them music and say, does this suck, or is it shit, or is it actually kind of good? Which is helpful because you need that. You need people to give you the objectives.
Yeah, I
that
definitely
are not
need
just
someone to tell me that it sucks sometimes.
But you guys, like you said earlier, the internet has changed everything. So
I
use Twitter for contacting and talking. I mean, we use SoundCloud for our music, but if you're gonna really want to see what the hell's going on in the world, Twitter is the place because that's where every artist and their mother is on Twitter, and they're all talking about something at some point in time. And you can follow them, you can see what they're up to, and you can make connections that way.
Let me ask you. So I kind of recall that. We were talking about the scene years ago, and you mentioned that a lot of artists don't talk about their craft, their actual process.
Right. There's a lot of mystery in it.
There's a lot of misdirection and bullshit information out there. I mean,
is it rightly so?
There's countless videos on the internet that are just completely giving you wrong information about what to do.
They do that.
Some
are intentionally, actually.
Yeah, but some of them are intentionally doing that, and some of them are trying to be funny or jokes, but a lot of them...
Some are just wrong.
Yeah, and then some of them are just people that want to make videos because they think that they're going to become famous by making tutorial videos, and that has happened to some people, and that's cool. That's not... Helping people is fine. That's, I love helping people. Is awesome. That's
why I've never, ever had a problem with telling anyone everything I know about production, is because... Even if I told them everything I know, they're still not
the same thing as doing it over the last...
They're still not going to be able to put it all together because that's a whole different thing.
You can read books all day long, about how to be a doctor, but until you're actually an intern and a doctor,
exactly.
It's not the same thing.
Exactly.
True.
And I think that pretty much applies to anything in this world.
But a lot of producers do that. It's like a mystery. Like they won't tell you how they do things because
out of fear that you're.
Oh yeah, they don't want people.
Yeah, just because it ruins the magic, you know.
And there's a lot of copying and stealing.
Oh, of course, that's like the whole thing is
good artists copying great artists stealing.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that.
You know, I understand that you were connected to the scene, but not as a musician. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. Back when I first met you, before you became a developer.
Like when I was in college, before I was, making music, I was a promoter, and I worked in New York and Philadelphia and Atlantic City, like all over. I started as a photographer even before I was a promoter. So I was a photographer working at all the clubs in New York and Baltimore and DC. I would just go all over the place. And then eventually, like probably when I was about like 21, I became, a promoter and working for a lot of the clubs in Philly and booking DJs and doing all that stuff. So I got a pretty good understanding of and I met a lot of people in the music business and in the nightlife business, and I got a pretty good understanding of it that way. And it wasn't until later, right before dance music kind of really blew up in the States, probably around 2009, that I stopped doing it. And we just started making music because I had got done school and I was just like, you know what?
Andy's the networking guy.
Yeah, so I'm
the kid who sits at home on the computer and doesn't go outside.
Yeah,
ever.
It was a good understanding. It was
becoming agoraphobic. Actually,
I got to kind of see the industry up front and close and personal. It's different now. I mean, it's different now than it was back then. I mean, there's a lot of market for it, but there's also a lot more saturation for it because everybody and their mother's a DJ.
Right.
This has absolutely 100% affected me and Jer because my attitude when I was a promoter was DJs are a dime a dozen and I can go find another one. So, and that was my attitude before we started making music. So when we started producing, it was like we're not worried about being DJs because it's not really who we are. We're just brothers that write music. It's not the same thing as wanting to go out and be the center of the attention in the club. You know what I mean? And I really think that attitude and that learning experience as a promoter has totally, affected us as, producers, because if we didn't understand that, we might have gone down different paths and done it a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll return after these messages.
Order! Conformity! I'm losing my creativity!
It's the Creative Impulse Podcast. Get the paddles.
He's gonna crash.
I'm coming! It's coming back! I'm starting to have ideas! I can see things! I can see the light! Oh, it's coming back! This is TCIP. We're with Vlack.
Vlack is back.
So we're here. We've been talking to Vlack.
Once you go Vlack,
you never go back.
You never go back.
That's awesome. That's what they say. Yeah. So one of the issues that I think we all run into as artists, artists who are working artists who want to make things that we sell, is the issue of saturation because there's so many artists out there. So what do you guys want to do? What do you guys do to make yourselves stand out? Or what are you thinking about doing to make yourselves stand out? Or is that an issue even?
I think it's definitely an issue. We were talking earlier, like you said, about saturation, and there's just so many people out there now doing it. I think it goes both ways. It's great that there's a lot more people out there making music now because there's more awesome music being made today than there ever has before. But also, too, there's just so many people out there. So it's very competitive, and there's a lot of people out there. I think for us, what we're specifically doing is just trying to be ourselves and write music that we enjoy. And for really, it's do things differently with different people that maybe someone else hasn't done before, and not try to just do the same thing that everyone else is doing all the time.
Right.
Because you see these trends and styles and sounds, and they're on the big charts and this or that.
They're just fads that die out.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And a lot of times those fads, no one's going to give a fuck about it in 5 years, and no one's going to remember the name of your song that you wrote that doesn't sound like anything, that doesn't move anybody or can touch people emotionally. So we try to write music that we enjoy.
It's timeless.
That's timeless, right? That when we can go back and listen to it in a couple years later, we're going to go, I remember what I was thinking about when I wrote that, and and hopefully it can affect other people in the same way. So we try to work with other singers and vocalists and stuff like that, and bring in people like that, because that adds another layer to it that's not just Andrew and Jeremiah anymore. It becomes something else. So we have a singer.
Who's that person you're working with now?
Yeah, so we found this singer. Her name is Michelle Carmen, and she is an amazing singer. She plays piano, and great songwriter. She plays all over Philly, all over the town, and she did this song with us that Jared written.
Show me the right time.
But Michelle, working with her is cool because she's got her own ideas about stuff, and she gave us some other, a different take on something that me and Jared wouldn't have done by ourselves, And working with vocalists, that's what you get with them, is you're going to get someone else's, essence almost, like, into your music, and it adds a whole nother dynamic to things. And I think that is a big part of, because to me, music is a communal thing, That's why it's the collection of a lot of human beings together at one time. At some point in time, you have to just, there's another saying on the internet, and I know a lot of producers say, songs are never finished, they're abandoned. So eventually, is it going to be done? Is it going to be your best? And we like to think that the next song is your best song. I mean, every song is going to be, the one we're working on now is great, but the next one we write is going to be better. So, you can't get too up and, you can't harp on the details for too much.
Are you composing on a synthesizer?
What do you mean?
Well, do you hear melodies, or are you in a... Are you getting back to that earlier question? Are you trying to evoke an emotional state that you're in at the moment of creation? Like, where's it coming from?
I definitely do that. When I write like chord progression and things like that, like I'll probably be super depressed for that day or something like that, and it comes out as the music, and it's like a kind of a communication sort of thing, and I definitely do that, kind of evoking a sort of emotion, whether it's sadness or badassery. I sometimes hear sound inside my head, and I kind of know what kind of a spectrum sound design I want and things like that. Yeah, I kind of do that. And same thing with melodies too. You can hear little things inside your head, like that should be there or something like that, and you just kind of put it there. I don't know. Music theory really, really helps with this kind of thing.
Right.
You've been playing instruments your entire life, and I just know piano like the back of my hand. You can play every single key exactly the same way. And you just know what all the notes are and all the scales are. And you can just write music in half a second. So it's so easy. It's almost too easy. But that's when the production thing comes in. That takes so much time.
Yeah, but our process differs between different types of songs. We have tons and tons. Mostly everything.
I write a lot of genres.
Almost, but most of everything we do is inside the box on the computer. I mean, almost all the instruments that we use. We use a lot of internal synths, but we do have external synths. And then, obviously you record voices, and you can record, little clips of here or there.
Mess around.
Right. And then sometimes we pull samples from other places that are just,
resample.
Yeah. And I think the Rain, was it the Rain remix, Jer?
Which one?
With the water?
Yeah, I recorded water on a hike, and I put it in a song.
Yeah, we went to
in
the
That's
mountains.
awesome.
Yeah. And he put it in a song, and it's like one of those little things. It's like, it's not an instrument. He made it into an
stuff,
instrument.
yeah, exactly. That stuff means a lot to me. It's just authentic, genuine, sincere.
Right. But
that's a textural element.
Yeah.
It adds, for the soundscape, but it's one of those things where it was added in a complete. It wasn't thought of at the time, but it just happened. So the process it really varies, and I think it starts from some kind of inspiration somewhere.
Yeah.
And once you get inspired, then the rest of it just kind of falls together.
Do you guys struggle to remain creative? Do you feel like there are forces in your life that
sometimes
inhibit that, or there are forces
definitely have bad days where you just hit a wall and you're just I can't write shit today, and just and it's just normally your state of mind. It's you're in a funk or something like that, and you just can't. Yeah, it just happens.
And
sometimes you try to do an idea, but you just fail, and you just couldn't make it work, and it just happens sometimes.
The magic isn't happening. I mean, sometimes that happens when you're drawing too.
Sure.
You'll be sitting there, just nothing is coming out right, or
right.
how you originally foresaw it, and so you just kind of throw down the pencil and go and watch TV or something.
Exactly. Sometimes you just fail.
Sometimes you need to get inspired by something else and just do something else to give your mind a refresh, and just to give yourself a break a little bit.
You're right.
But you're always going to come back to it because it's something that we've realized is that music is a part of us now, is just as much as anything else. It's you can't give up something that you love because it's just you'll never give up because I think that's part just as much of anything else is that you can't give up if it's something that you really love to do and you really want to do, then you don't even have the choice to give up.
And I think my wife had asked a musician friend, well, why do you still do this music thing? It's like, do you think I have a choice?
Right, exactly. I don't have a choice.
Yes,
exactly.
Why do you do this?
Exactly.
I don't have anything else that I want to do.
It's the only thing I'm good at, so
exactly.
I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. So there it is.
You're listening to the Creative Impulse Podcast. It's 10 pounds of awesome in a 5-pound bag.